Yes, sir, the link is working.
Okay. So I guess we could start, right?
Yes, sir. We will wait for two
All right.
minutes. Yeah,
All right, 2 minutes. All right.
yeah.
Right.
Uh, Thakre, ma'am.
I think you are on mute.
Hello, ma'am.
Ma'am, I think you are on mute.
Okay. Am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Fine.
Ma'am, sir has joined.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello, Professor.
Hello.
Yeah. Hello, Ebenezer. Hi. Yeah.
Hello. Yeah.
Yes. So,
I
shall we
hope every-
start?
Yes,
yes,
ma'am.
yes.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think once everybody is
Yeah.
ready, we could start.
Yana's supposed to join, but I think she got a meeting, so we can start
All
right
right.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think she sent me a message. So,
Yes.
all right.
Shall I
So,
start,
Kapil
ma'am?
sir, we can start now.
Yes, ma'am.
All
Yes.
right.
Yeah. Good afternoon to one and all present. I, Kapil Tajne, on the behalf of Department of Computer Engineering and International Relations Cell, PCCU Pune, extend my warmest welcome to each and everyone invited here on a very auspicious moment of this technical talk series. Today is the first talk on the topic Web 2.0 to Web 3.0 by Professor Ebenezer Agbozo, Senior Lecturer at Ural Federal University, Russia. I welcome today's eminent speaker, Mr. Professor Ebenezer Agbozo. I further welcome Dr. Anuradha Thakre Madam, Dean International Relations Cell, PCC Pune. I request Dr. Anuradha Madam to address the participants. Over to you, ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you, Kapil sir. Good afternoon, all. I'm very happy to share that PCCOE, Pimpri Chinchwad College of Engineering, a bilateral agreement with Ural Federal University, Russia, for academic and research exchange. So through this international relations cell, we have organized a series of technical talks. So this is very first talk. So I heartily welcome you all. And for this session, we have with us the eminent personality, today's speaker, Mr. Ebenezer Agbozo, who is a data engineer and senior lecturer at Ural Federal University, Russia. And he will be talking on very apt topic, Web 2.0 to 3.0, exploring the future of web. I'm sure students that his rich experience in the web technology will be beneficial to you all and you will enjoy the session. I also extend my thanks to Yana, who is a director of international education programs of Ural Federal University. She will be joining soon this session. And so without much delay, I'll hand over session to Kapil sir. Okay. Once more, welcome, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. It's my immense pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Professor Ebenezer Agbozo. He is currently working as senior lecturer at Ural Federal University, Russia. He has completed his postgraduate degree in computer science and engineering from Ural Federal University, Russia. He has completed his MSc Applied Informatics from Ural Federal University, Russia. He has completed his bachelor's in computer science from uh, University of Science and Technology, Ghana. So he has his research interest includes electronic government, ICT for development, digital humanities, digital society, management information systems, machine learning, computational social sciences, and complex systems. He has several research papers on his name. So we are very happy to welcome you, sir. So, without delaying, I request you to start the session. Over to you, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. Well, that was a really long um, welcome meeting. Okay. I'll have to share my screen. Okay. Good. I hope you can see my screen now.
Yeah.
Okay, it's
Yeah.
all right. Very good.
Yeah, before the start of the session, sir, our audience is most of the our third year students of computer engineering. We
Okay.
have a course web technology at third year level, and it is taken by 3 professors since we have large intake. So three
Yeah.
professors are involved here, those who are handling this course. Professor
Okay.
Srikant Kokate, Professor Rahul Pitale, and Professor Shailesh Bolande. So they all
Okay.
are participating here.
All right. Well,
That's all. Over to you, sir.
yeah. All right. Thank you very much. And I would like to say it's also a privilege for me to just give this lecture. I know probably I didn't think of going too deep into the lecture because there's so much to talk about when it comes to some of these things. But then my goal here is just to introduce you to what is happening at the moment and where students can find themselves probably maybe when it comes to getting a job or furthering in their research career, looking at the trends that are ongoing at the moment. All right. So as your professors have introduced me, I'm Ebenezer Agbozo, and I'm from Ghana, but I've been in Russia for quite a number of years. And in this university, I've been working here for the past 5 years, lecturing. And I'm in the Department of Big Data Analytics and Methods of Video Analysis in URFU, as we call it by short, Ural Federal University. So I'll jump straight to my slides. So today I'll be looking at the Web 2.0 to Web 3.0, exploring the future of the web. Okay. Yeah. So what I'm going to look at today, this is just a brief overview of what I'm going to look at today. Basically, the historical background of the web. Then we look at the Web 2.0. Well, I won't talk too much about Web 1.0, but the web, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the Web 3.0, coming to the hype and the future promises, and also the pitfalls. Then we look at caught between Web 2.0 and Web 3.0, that's facing the reality when it comes to facing the reality. And then we're going to look at the skills and resources that are needed for the coming age of the web. And we look at, so I'm going to focus on two modern technologies that are essential for the next generation of the web. That is blockchain as a component of Web 3.0 and also ML ops. And I'll explain what ML ops is. I'm sure some of you might know this already because you're a computer engineering student. So I didn't know the demography of the students I was going to be presenting to, but yeah. Okay, so I'll begin. Well, I'm sure some of you have known from the past, because you're computer engineering students, I don't have to go deep into the history of the web. And we all know Sir Tim Berners-Lee is the brain behind the web that we know today. I mean, well, the web he envisioned many years ago is not the web we see today, but then he had a vision for the web, and unfortunately it did. He created a foundation for what we have today. So we look at from 1990 till 2022. Yeah, I just had to verify which year we are in. Because of the pandemic, we've lost a lot of time. So some people don't even keep track of time. But when we look at the evolution of the web, we see different generations of the web evolving. And we come from the age of Netscape, and I don't know if some of you were born at that time. I doubt. Yeah, that's 1990, around the early 90s. We had the Netscapes. We had some of these other tools that were not really available, and you could the value created at that time could be equivalent to 1.1 trillion US dollars. And over the time, we saw around 2005, Facebook and all these other platforms came on the scene. And that's where we moved to Web 2.0, where we have social networks, mobile first, always on cloud computing as well. And the technologies we use today, Airbnb and most of the games, people play online all fall within this category of the web. Uber, and we're on the threshold where we are moving towards, or some people already say we are actually at Web 3.0, where we are looking at AI-driven services and decentralized data architecture. And also we're looking at edge computing infrastructure. So, but one of the key challenges we'll have to take note of is that as the web evolves, we also realize that we need faster internet. I think just recently I was watching a video on CNBC. I think you can check it out on CNBC, where the Apple, some of the telecom networks in America said they are actually about to scrape 3G networks because they need to create bandwidth for 5G networks. And this was quite interesting. So the presenter was just showing how 3G works today. She tried to order an Uber. It actually didn't work because the version wasn't made for the modern technology. And also she tried to do a few browsers, and most web pages are not built for some of the networks. So we realized that whilst the web is evolving, people there's this fear that, well, there will not be jobs and the bots machines will take all the jobs, but there will actually be room for new innovation in other aspects. For example, when it comes to the technology that's these web platforms will run on. So as computer engineering students, I'm sure some of you look at the hardware aspect, so you can begin to think about the hardware that forms a foundation for some of these platforms to run on. So we're looking at some of these things in the future, and it's quite exciting. And for some of you who might not want to enter into other aspects, and we'll talk about that, maybe like the ethical side of the privacy side of the internet and the web. I'm sure it might be of interest to some of you. All right. Once again, looking at the history of the internet. Now, well, technically, there's a difference between the internet and the web, but for language sake, we usually mix them because the internet is more of an interconnection of networks, servers, computers, and then the web is the interface that we are able to see. That's these pages that run on these internet. That's the interconnected networks. Yeah. So we saw basic emails in Web 1.0. We now moved to Web 2.0 in the early 2000s. That's where we began to see informative, interactive, and information-centric content. So producers or information producers push information, and then we consume. So we are just the consumers in that realm of the web. And it's been happening for many years till now. That's what most people still are enjoying. And some people are comfortable with it. Some people want more because that is the human nature. There's a desire for something more. So we're able to see that. And then we're looking at where we are going to Web 3.0, which has to do with decentralized. And when we say decentralization, I'm sure you have the idea that there's no central authority, or more or less there's that everybody has some sort of, the individual users are the ones who have power over their data and who have power over their information. And there's more privacy focused and more security focused. And we're looking at also user centric. So whilst I'm talking, I'll be giving some hints. One of the when it comes to the job aspect, and if some of you know what the GDPR is, it's the General Data Protection Regulation in the European Union, in the EU. And in the EU, they have this regulation that gives users the power to their data. It gives users the right to be forgotten. So when you leave a certain web service, your data must be deleted by the company that holds your data. And for many years now, data has been called the new oil, because most companies, Google, they all depend on data. And even Facebook, the Facebook's marketing how should I put it? Facebook's marketing strategy and the modern day. If you look at most of the economics and these informatics, business informatics courses, you're going to realize that most of the business models are driven by user data. So now that the European Union has released this sort of data protection regulation, I'm sure, I don't know if many of you have taken note of it. When you go to some European hosted websites, you'd see it asks you for consent, that they need your consent to take cookies to store cookies on your browser so that they can be able to have access to your patterns and what you browse, because that's what the web had been built on, and it's been used to control people and all sorts of things. But at the same time, it's also an interesting thing, because some people need recommendations from Amazon or other business, eBay and all those things. So, but there's a dark side of all that here, and it's scary to some people. So the push for Web 3.0 is now more than ever. I think I'll not even talk much about this, but the Web 1.0, as I said, was built on that everyone on the internet will be able to publish and consume content, as well as the publisher and the consumer infrastructure. Now, Web 3 is different, where it's somewhat ambiguous. That's the thing, because a lot of people are still trying to understand what Web 3.0. So you might hear a lot of people talking about Web 3.0, and for them, it's just about blockchain. That's one of the tricky aspects. But Web 3.0 does not encompass blockchain alone, because when it comes to Web 3.0, there are so many other components. Now, it makes it difficult to rigorously evaluate what the ambitions of Web 3.0 or Web 3 should be, because but the general thesis seems to be that Web 1 was decentralized, because that's the general idea, that in the beginning the web was built as a decentralized platform, and then it's transitioned to a centralized platform in Web 2.0 when the big tech companies came on the scene, and they began to hold all the data, all the power. So I mean, we built these big companies, and now everything is centralized. So we want to break it back to more of a decentralized system, but give users the power. And Web 3 will be decentralize everything again. Web 3 should give us the richness of Web 2, but also be decentralized just as Web 1. That's according to one researcher who posted a Moxie on Twitter, because now there are lots of debates, even with Twitter's former CEO, that Jack Dorsey, recently came up and had a debate on this issue, because a lot of people because of the push for more crypto and blockchain based systems, most people just think Web 3.0 or Web 3 is just about blockchain and Bitcoin and all that, but there's more to that. So the token economy in Web 3 is where people own their identity and digital assets. That's one aspect of Web 3. There's also the aspect of the semantic web, that's when it comes to searching, and that we have graph databases in the background connecting and making search quite easier. Yeah, so if you for skill sets, you can look into graph databases. It's also an interesting area. And I think I've already talked about it. So Facebook, formerly Meta, now Meta, formerly known as Facebook, it's one of those companies that had a business model built on Web 2.0, and actually we can say the whole idea of doing business in Web 2.0. So you realize that even till date, most businesses run in this format, whereby you publish content, you generate ads, people like your feed. When we look at TikTok, we look at all these apps, you realize it has a similar model, where the influencers are also using it to publish content, share, and generate ads and generate revenue. So that's the whole cycle or the whole life cycle when it comes to Web 2.0. So we see developers building apps with this framework, but then you should take note that whilst the world is moving towards Web 3.0, it's important to also understand the fundamentals of the web. Yeah, and once you understand the fundamentals, you look at what is happening around, and then you pick some ideas and transfer that knowledge into your setting wherever you are, because you can't copy everything that's happening in every country and paste it in, for example, in India. Now, Web 3.0, in the light of Web 2.0, is quite important, because we are still caught in between these two, the transition from Web 2 to Web 3. So Web 3 is the upcoming third generation of the internet, where websites and apps actually will be able to process information in a smart human-like way through technologies such as machine learning, big data analytics, decentralized ledger, that is blockchain technology, and many more. Web 3.0 was originally called the semantic web. Yeah, when the idea was created, most people envision Web 3.0 as more of the semantic web. That has to do with web of connected things. Yeah, not necessarily Internet of Things, but web of connected things. That's things, data was connected to each other. So when you look at, for example, you look at a little bit of what the semantic web would be, is when you maybe search for the current Prime Minister of India, you'd see on Google, you'd see his name at the corner, you'd see some information about him, and you might even see the family tree. You click, you see the school he attended, or maybe even some of the richest men in India, or the top universities in India. Google would give you a search results with the very top would have some images of the universities ranked. And how does Google get that information? Google does not write that, but then because of the nature of the semantic web, that the graph databases working in the background, it's able to connect these information and bring them together in a search result. So that's more or less what people are looking at when it comes to Web 3.0. But then a lot has changed in the past few years. Or I should say in the past 2 years, we look at how things have rapidly sped up. Some people might link it to the fact that there's nothing to do. People are at home, so people are thinking more because they're at home. Yeah, they're able to build things quicker. The pandemic has helped people to build things. Now, Web 3.0 can be defined as follows. We can say it's data that is interconnected in a decentralized way. So the decentralization of it gave room for blockchain technology to be used as a fundamental technology when it comes to Web 3.0, because we know that the concept of blockchain, I'm sure all of you know about this, or the decentralized ledger system. It's such that it has the whole concept of trust, trust and security and privacy and anonymity, a bit of anonymity to it, depending on the type of blockchain technology you're looking at. And so data is stored in Web 2.0, data was stored in centralized repositories, but now there's a decentralization aspect whereby users keep data, or they own their data. Yeah, and there are different blockchain protocols that also come into play when it comes to this. Now, legitimate businesses and legislators who regulate the web, Web 2.0, regulate the web in general, have sought to make Web 2.0 clean and brightly lit and a safe place for us to interact and transact. So you look at many organizations, you look at many universities, and for example, you look at in Harvard, they have the Berkman Klein Institute, where most of the research on internet and the internet society also is done. The more of the the ethical side of research when it comes to the web, because the goal is that most people believe that, well, the web 2.0, as we know, is a bit of a mess. So let's try to correct things. So we see lots of researchers trying to correct Web 2.0, which is actually a good thing. It's some people think that maybe we should just leave it as it is and then jump to Web 3, and maybe build it from there. But then it's possible to change a lot of things now, and then when Web 3.0 is in full session, the knowledge will be transferred into that Web 3.0 environment. There's also the Oxford Internet Institute from Oxford University, where they have these research institutions, and I think they have the Humboldt Internet Institute in Germany. So these research institutes in some universities have these organizations that also are trying to make Web 2.0 overall clean and then a safe place for interaction because of the mess. Now, through customer protection, privacy regulation, most users enjoy a higher level of protection than they had earlier in the evolution of Web 2.0, which is quite true, because it's just like now we have Web 3.0. A lot of people are rushing into some aspect of Web 3.0, or maybe let's say cryptocurrency or blockchain technology, and we are realizing that people are being swindled or defrauded and all these kinds of things happening because people don't really understand, and because some people are taking they're actually defrauding. So there are these actors in the whole ecosystem who are defrauding people who don't really have a full idea of the concepts that are or the technologies that are underlying the systems. So that's one of the sad parts here. So it's the same way that Web 2.0 started, and it didn't have a good foundation for protecting users and all those things. It seems like it's trying to be the same way for Web 3.0, but it's possible for things to change quickly because we have a lot of people fighting for some of these kinds of data protection regulations. Now that we've seen it in Web 2.0, it will be easy for countries to enforce these regulations to cover anything that has to do with the web. So now Web 3 seeks to re-democratize, or that is decentralize the internet as Web 1 was, and returning to the internet, return the internet to its past promise by harnessing blockchain technologies. That's one aspect. That's one school of thought is about this, that this is the core concept of Web 3.0, that blockchain technology is the fundamental component of it. Well, it could be debatable, that's it. But I believe, I understand it's true. And blockchain technology cannot be the only fundamental technology that can harness the goal of, or that can achieve the goal of Web 3.0. There are definitely other technologies. It's just that the blockchain technology comes with the whole concept of decentralization, so which makes it the number one solution. Now, so these are a few features of Web3. We have decentralization, we have AI and machine learning and deep learning and all the other, basically AI in general. And then we have connectivity and ubiquity. Then we have the semantic web aspect, which I talked about a little. And then we also look at the concept of 3D graphics being embedded into the web. And we realize that because of these things, we see the engineers also trying to build hardcore technology that could be able to run these things. Because if we look at the smartphones we use today, and we look at maybe the smartphones we used in the past, you're going to realize that it's quite interesting how technology has really evolved, and we're able to use some smartphones that are even more powerful than some laptops we were using a few years ago, or some servers that some companies were running on. So you begin to imagine how were we able to use a floppy disk? I'm sure I don't know if you know what the floppy disk or diskette is. The floppy diskette with, I think, 4.4 megabytes. We're able to copy files on it and put Mario and all those games on it and play. You'd go to a friend's place, you'd put your floppy disk inside, you copy it. It's quite interesting and it's fascinating. I think probably a computer back then would have about 30 megabytes of a hard disk, or 50 megabytes of a huge hard disk. And now we're able to have a flash drive that is maybe like 10 gigabytes. I don't even know if they are terabytes, but then we look at DDR, even look at the RAM when we talk about computer RAM and memory, the DDR and all those things. Yeah, and we look at companies like Intel and we see where they are going. I'm sure I advise you to just look at Intel and look at the news on Intel and see what they are building, because the goal is to build a technology. The race, there's like the gun has been shot in the air and the race has already started. So people are trying to be the first, or companies are trying to be the first to be the platform or the technology that all these the new age of the web would run on. So that's what is happening around. And don't think it's far away from you, because these opportunities are available to anybody, no matter where you are from. You should be able to, if you want to work in some of these companies and organizations, you should be. I think you just have to associate yourself with the right communities. And now that you are doing your undergraduate program, the internet is most of you are actually quite fortunate, because years past, I imagine how the older generation were able to do a lot of things without the internet. And now we have information just right under our noses. But yeah, it's quite difficult to sometimes find things. Yeah, so I advise you just to go online and then just search for what's happening, the current trends, and see where maybe you think you fit or your interest might fit. Maybe you might start in one area, but you realize that you evolve. So don't be afraid to evolve when it comes to your interests in engineering or the web development or web solutions. Now, this is an interesting image I saw recently. That Web 1 was enter your email and your password, or username and password. And Web 2.0 was more about signing in with via an API, like Google or Facebook, Twitter. So you don't have to sign in with your personal account, but you sign in with your social media account. Yeah, you don't. It's just you just have to verify when you give the permission. And now with Web 3.0, you're supposed to connect with your wallet. I'm sure some of you have the idea of the wallet. The wallet is more or less like your wallet that holds cryptocurrency, or so it means that wallets are becoming the identity, because it's actually seen in a lot of apps and all that. I think I could show, if I had a chance, I would have shown you. Because of my research, I have to explore some of these things. Like if you know about some of the blockchain technologies, you realize that when you go on their website, you have to log in with you have to connect with the wallet, maybe any of the blockchain wallets that is for that technology. So for example, if you are playing, I think there's a game called Axie Infinity, you need to use an Ethereum based wallet to connect to the game. It's quite interesting. And also there are other apps that you need a wallet. If it's on the Solana blockchain, you also need to have a Solana blockchain, a Solana wallet. Then you can connect, or you can register the app for the service with your blockchain wallet and have access to the services available. Now, I think I've talked a lot about audits here, but then I'll just briefly rush through this aspect here. So based on the several indicators, it may be too early to start moving away from Web 2.0, because as I said, businesses and organizations and governments are actually skeptical. There's a skepticism when it comes to Web 3.0, the whole rush towards it. So, and also there's an aspect that organizations are trying to reform Web 2.0. So it's a bit too early, but it's never too early also. So now we are in the crossroads. We are at the crossroads, sorry. So maybe you can call it Web 2.5 or something like that. Yeah. And that particular platform, that's Web 2, it still has a lot left in it. And while users are not really happy with the control, I'm sure people talk about that. People are not happy with the control exerted by major social media companies, streaming companies, and advertising companies. There is no doubt that these organizations have some of the most oversized market caps in the financial world. I mean, they control the markets. And most CIOs recognize the economy produced by Web 2.0 still has enormous earning potential for them. That's according to Forbes. And just to talk about one thing, you realize that whilst we are rushing towards Web 3.0, you should realize that there are a lot of people who are going to be left behind when it comes to Web 3.0 because of internet connectivity, because of as in the infrastructure, telecom infrastructure in some countries. So some countries are still trying to handle Web 2.0 already. They are not able to handle, but then most of the West is already rushing towards Web 3.0. And there might be also another digital divide. I don't think people are thinking about that a lot, but then there's the tendency of a digital divide going to happen once more, because now these apps that are running on Web 3.0, which need higher processing and maybe computers and firmware and devices, and also would need high bandwidth to run transactions and all these things online. Whilst these countries with low economies or maybe low infrastructure might not have these things in place, and they're also trying to transition towards Web 2.0. So you should remember that there's a lot of money going into transitioning from Web 2 to Web 3 when it comes to especially the 5G networks. That because it's believed that 5G networks would be the core service the core platform for running internet services, and that's also something that people can look into. How do we probably as engineers, you could look into that. How do we restructure the internet service delivery aspect, maybe by developing some new protocols or something of that sort? So it's an open question. The battle for control and definition of Web 3.0 will be a hard-fought one because its objectives and monetization. Now, take note of monetization, because there's a goal that people want to make money from Web 3.0. That's you own your data, so you're able to sell your data to companies and make something by selling your identity to these companies, and then you can take it back when you don't need it. I asked for that business model. We don't know about that yet. So also there's going to be the financial aspect of this. I think if you've heard of the word tokenomics, you can look into that. Many businesses are looking at token economics, tokenomics when it comes to Web 3.0. I'm sure if some of you are in the blockchain space or the crypto space, so you know about, or the NFT space, so you know about tokenomics. And monetization will have a high impact on those and control. Those that control and profit upon current Web 2.0 technologies and companies. So also you have to look. Some of you might be interested in the law or the privacy side of things. So if you're interested, you can go into law with your engineering background. You can actually transition into the law aspect and have a law degree, or just to become a lawyer in this aspect. Because one of my colleagues said, though, very soon the where the web is going, they'll need a lot of lawyers, and also they'll need a lot of insurance people. Yeah, so there'll be new levels of insurance when it comes to the web. There'll be new ways of making money, actually, in general, when it comes to Web 3.0. So I think I should have talked about this, but I mentioned this earlier on Web 3.0. There's a lot of news when you go online. You see the Web 3.0 is too complicated. What's the whole fuss about Web 3.0? Elon Musk says Web 3 isn't real. Jack Dorsey is banned from it. What is Web 3? And there was actually a debate recently between Jack Dorsey. I don't remember the other person's name, but he seemed to be a very well-known person in the web space. And Jack Dorsey was more or less trolling Web 3, and Elon Musk was also seconding him in a certain funny way. I didn't talk about this initially because this actually, I should have talked about this before, because this is when it comes to any innovation, there's a theory of diffusion of innovation, which was developed by E.M. Rogers in 1962, and it's still relevant till today. And it's one of the oldest social science theories. It originated from the communication space, and its goal is to explain how over time, an idea, product, or maybe innovation gains momentum and diffuses or spreads through a specific population or social system. So basically, it's more or less about how any technology or anything. It's not limited to technology, but now we use it as a technology adoption, more or less a lens to view how technology is adopted. So you see, the theory of diffusion of innovation, or the diffusion of innovation theory, DOI theory. We see that usually with any innovative idea, we see that the innovators are 2.5%, and we have the early adopters, which are about 13.5%. So at this stage, when it comes to some technologies, especially Web3, most people, we are still around the early adopter stage here, because not a lot of people are on board. Some people are just enjoying the web as it is, whilst others are enjoying the benefits of Web 3.0 already when it comes to the crypto space, and then Web 3.0. We see people playing games, play to earn. They play games to earn, or they participate in certain things to earn. And this aspect is not for everybody, because it's a bit raw. The technologies are not yet refined for everybody to use. So usually the developers are using the early adopters as more or less a case study to see how best they could improve the system for everybody in the general market to use it. Then we have the early majority, like that's quite a large percentage who come in. So take any technology, you could be able to put this in a timeline. TikTok, we see a lot of people. TikTok was I don't use TikTok personally, but then TikTok was in the market, and then later on it just boomed all of a sudden. Yeah. So it's one of those things. Any technology follows this similar trend, and we have the laggards at the end. Well, we have the late majority, the skeptics, the hardcore, and then the hardcore skeptics are the laggards. These people, they may never come on board, or they might come on board at the last end when the system has already been used. So a good example would be people who are now having Facebook accounts in 2022, who are now registering on Facebook. We'll call them the laggards, because Facebook came many years ago, but then we see people now creating accounts because they're like, oh well, yeah, I think I need a Facebook account now, maybe to connect with my classmates and all that. So we have these things. Yeah, so this is one theory that can be taken into consideration, and you'll be able to see how you can segment or you can do market segmentation when it comes to sending your idea there. Because one thing you should realize that, we are IT people, we are engineers, we are programmers. Usually we don't really take note of the fact that there's a business side of this. So there's a business side of this. So and there's the psychological side, there's the social side of the technologies we build. That's why if you look at user experience, UI developers, you're going to realize that they look at colors, they look at how users respond to the technology and all that stuff. Yeah, so there'll be also a need for people in that sphere, UI and UX, user interface, and then user experience researchers, and also people who are into quality assurance to make sure that these technologies are actually worth using, that they are not going to inflict some sort of repercussions on their users. And I actually should have mentioned this in the beginning, but I didn't talk about it. But then this is the Gartner hype cycle, which is a graphical depiction of a common pattern that arises with each technology or innovation. And this is from 2021. I think it might be too small, so I'll zoom in a little bit. So this is the hype cycle for emerging technologies. That's us at 2021. It came about, and we see that the innovation triggers section, that is where technologies are at this side. We see some of the technologies. So actually the Gartner hype cycle is a good place to see what technologies are yet to peak, and then maybe where you can decide to channel your programming skills or your engineering skills to, and maybe learn something so that you're able to get a job in this area. So you might see some interesting terminologies. So just if we look on top here, we're going to see things that are the peak of they are the peak. That's the data fabric, decentralized identity, and also we have the non-fungible tokens, NFTs. These are some, they are their peak, and we see AI and AI augmented software engineering. So the reason why you're going to see these things is because of the movement towards the metaverse, and then the that is blockchain on the web and all these things. We see now people want to have meetings with virtual reality and all these things in that's virtual reality infused into these technologies, so that people can have access to certain features and certain games and certain activities. So we see people moving in that direction. So AI augmented software engineering is also there, and you can, for the web, you can build these platforms. You can build a platform. You can have a nice idea, maybe, for example, laboratory practice for students in medical school, and you with Google Cardboard. And Google Cardboard is quite cheap. It's a cheaper version of a virtual reality headset. It's, I think, under $5 or under $3. So you should be able to put your phone in a Google Cardboard, and then because every student has a phone, so they should be able to, and you can build a platform that professors can deliver laboratory practice at a cheaper cost, because it's just going to have a Google Cardboard with your phone, with the phone inside of the cardboard, and then the platform running. Yeah, because it's a web-based app that you build, and you have these laboratory stuff for medical students. Yeah. So this is just an interesting idea when it comes to where the web is going. So we see some of these concepts, and we see decentralized finance. We see all these things. Yeah. So that's where we are at the moment. And the report for 2022 has not yet been released. I don't think so. So at the moment, this is where we are. And most of the technologies are centered around what I'm talking about, the Web 3.0. It requires all these things. A few use cases of Web 3.0. I should be ending soon, and I'll be showing a few practical stuff. Web 3.0 themes and use cases we see, especially when it comes, the two aspects I'm going to talk about are blockchain-based use cases. That's smart contracts. dApps, that's decentralized applications. DeFi, that's decentralized finance. And also DEXs, decentralized exchanges. And then we have the metaverse, that is it's also another interesting term that is quite difficult for a lot of people to explain what it is. And then by basically the universe in web-based environment here. So even maybe you can develop a metaverse for your university where students can come online, and then you have these 3D figures where they can attend class. It's interesting, yeah. And also NFTs, that's non-fungible tokens. And then the second side is actually where we have data-driven web apps, that is machine learning, ML ops. You know, we have DevOps for those who develop apps, development operations. Yes, so the same with machine learning. When you finish a machine learning model, you build a machine learning model. The goal of machine learning models are not just to build a model and to publish a nice article in a scientific journal and say we built a model, we compared it with other ones, and ours has a higher accuracy or higher precision and all those things. No, that's not enough. The goal is to actually embed this model into an app, a mobile app, desktop app, web app. Yeah, usually web apps are quite more convenient, and you deploy these models inside of the web using some of the three most popular ones are Streamlit, Django, and Flask. I would mention this a little bit, and then we also have JavaScript. JavaScript is also still an important aspect, where we have JavaScript as the front end and Python as the back end. So JavaScript will be doing the front end calls, and then Python is at the back end, maybe pulling your model, for example, a facial recognition system. And as an example, yeah, a web app that has a facial recognition system working at the background, you're going to see that Python will be in the background doing all the processing, whilst JavaScript is also playing its role in the front end. And I just want to show you something quickly. Yeah, I open my browser. Okay, Yes, I just wanted to show you one interesting. That's gun.eco. It's gun.js. It's one of the JavaScript um one of the JavaScript platforms that, well, it's quite new and it's built for the blockchain space. So perhaps if you are interested in understanding more of it, you can look at that. Yeah, it's built. It's a I could say it's a framework that is also built specifically for this this space. That's what I'm talking about. So just taking a look at the what is possible. It's a JavaScript framework in general, and it's used. You can use it in building dApps, that decentralized applications. Yeah, so I've given you one interesting tool you can look at and learn more about. That's Gun. I think it's called Gun.js. Yeah, for Gun. Yeah. So gun.eco. That's the website. And then there's also Solidity. That is Solidity. I wanted to show you Solidity. Solidity is actually one of the core frameworks that is used in building the dApps. That's decentralized applications, decentralized finance applications, all that. Yeah, Solidity is one of these technologies, and it's used in building smart contracts. That's and I didn't explain smart contract, but smart contracts are basically, it's code that has already been set with some conditions. So when an action happens, it must that code must be executed. Yeah. So Solidity is one of those platforms, and it's also it's a framework and a language. I won't call it a language on its own, but it's a framework on its own, yeah, or and a programming language. Some people call it a programming language because it has its own. It's built basically for blockchain technology. So most of the blockchain programmers use Solidity. You can check it out. Solidity. It's a programming language, yeah. And Ethereum and all these kinds of technologies are built on this. Yeah. Then for smart contract development, so I talk about Solidity, and then we have Remix ID. It's a development environment. You can also look into that. And then there's Web3.js and then Ethers.js. These are also interesting frameworks that can be used. So you can begin to look at these frameworks and see how you can maybe you can have a simple website, but then you can embed something a little component from the decentralized, the blockchain space, or the as a Web3 space. You can embed something little into your app, just a little component, and see maybe not just your service doesn't 100% run on these frameworks, but then these frameworks contribute a little component to your service. It can be done. And then there's Truffle Suite. Let me just show you Remix. Remix.ethereum. You can look through it and see. There are some which are online. This actually an online one, and yeah, it's an ID, browser-based ID that can be used in developing blockchain-based apps. So you can look into that, and it has Solidity at the background as a code, the main code for language. So you can use it to build smart contracts. You can connect to your local host. You can test, run, and do quite a lot of things. And then there's also Hard Hat, and then we have React.js, our beloved React.js, which actually is still evolving, and it's really purposeful. It's going to, there'll be the need for a lot of people who know how to program in React. And then we have Rust and C and C++ coders. And for backend development, we also need people who are good with Python. And also, you also have to have some understanding in EVM compatible technologies or frameworks. And when I say EVM, it's more or less the Ethereum virtual machine. Some of these frameworks have to be compatible with the Ethereum virtual machine, because most technology or most blockchain, most of the new blockchain frameworks are actually built on Ethereum, because Ethereum is one of the best, but has a lot of question marks around it. The major question mark around Ethereum is the gas fees. When we say gas fees, I'm sure you know the transaction cost it takes to. It's like paying commission for the services you need. So, for example, in the Ethereum space, you can buy something for $5 worth, and you have to pay gas fees for about $40. It sounds absurd, yeah. So, other developers decided to build on top of the Ethereum framework and try to tweak it so that they could build. So we have different technologies. That so there are a lot of technologies that blockchain technologies that are compatible with the Ethereum virtual machine, even though they are not Ethereum themselves. But yeah, so you have to understand and watch this space, or maybe read more about some of these things. And I think I didn't show you hard hat here, just to show you hardhat.org. Yeah, leave the site. And this is also an interesting space you could check out here. But one of the things you realize that at the moment, Solidity is the programming language for the blockchain space. Yeah, I'm sure other people are working on other things so that you could use very soon. Maybe Python might have their own package for that. I'm sure there are some packages, but very soon they might have a whole framework for that. JavaScript might also develop a full framework. They might develop full frameworks for that. So we are watching. Microsoft might also develop something when it comes to C# and all that. So at the moment, we have these, and you can really walk through. There are so many resources available. Now, I'm about to end my presentation quite soon. I wanted to show you one of the interesting ones. I mentioned the one component of this is the 3D spaces. 3D spaces. Just a moment. I mentioned one of the features is a 3D graphics, actually 3D graphics, and taking note of the fact that 3D graphics is an important component. You can take a look at A-Frame, and let me just show you aframe.io. It's also another interesting framework for building 3D in your web applications. So it's one interesting giveaway. You can look through it here. And you can use it to build 3D worlds in HTML, and it's for mobile, for Quest, for Rift, for WML, for desktop applications. You can look through it here and get started. It's also an interesting one here. So if you this is just a basic way to actually enter the 3D space when it comes to having 3D apps on your web service or website. So you can take a look at this and what is possible. It's also JavaScript based, but it has its own a few semantics. We can see it's a different framework, has its own semantics, just a little its own tags. But with your knowledge in web development, you should be able to understand this quickly. Yeah. All right. Now I'm sure my time is almost up soon. Yeah. So the second part is when we look at data-driven apps, and I mentioned it that you have machine learning. You build a machine learning model, and then you export the model into a certain file format. Now you have to put your file. You have to put this model into a web app to use it for some technology. For example, a bank, maybe to determine if someone should be given credit or not, to determine if somebody should be given a loan or not, some of these things, or to even when it comes to education, maybe for students. Now that's the risky part of some of these technologies here, that it might take away a lot of humanity of some of these of life here. You know, there are some things that we actually do when it comes to web technology or technology in general, that the new technology might take away these components, like the human side of things. Yeah, because everything will be automated, and now it means that there's no room for giving the benefits of the doubt when it comes to that. But well, that's a different conversation altogether. So you build your model, your machine learning, you test your model, you build it, and then you deploy it. Now the deployment side is what we talk about when we say MLOps, and they have, these are the frameworks for integrating machine learning models on the web. We have Django, we have Plotly by Dash. And this one, it's Plotly by Dash. It's quite different here, and it's quite easy to use. It's not, you can check out Plotly. Because of time, I wouldn't really go through it. Yeah. And then we look at Django. Django is quite popular because it's Python. It came quite in early days, Python based. That's the web side of Python. Yeah. So you build up a Python framework. You build your Python model, and then you embed it in a Django. That using Django, you build a web app, and it runs in the background. So that's, and Flask is also there. Flask is also one interesting one, really good, really good one. I would encourage you to look at. And then Streamlit. Now Streamlit is one of my favorite ones because it's easy to work with. It's not as difficult to program because the syntax is quite easy and everything is almost done for you. You just have to know which tags to use and embed your Python files and all that. It's really interesting. I recommend Streamlit to you. Comparing all of them, when it comes to flexibility, Django is more flexible because you're able to control the components or the individual components. Flask is in the middle. And also, whilst Django is flexible, it's also difficult when it comes to comparing the three of them. Now, when it comes to flexibility, Streamlit is the least flexible because everything has been coded. So you don't have much choice to change things. You just have to call that. It's like using maybe Bootstrap CSS, or you can customize it a little bit, but then using a certain like drag and drop feature in an app, you can't, for example, programming in some languages where it's drag and drop, you can't change anything. It's given to you already. So that's how Streamlit works. And it's also quite easy. So if you want to go for the middle, then you can go for Flask here. It's you have a balance between the ease and then the flexibility. So, but Streamlit is also recommended, highly recommended here, and it's evolving. So very soon they might actually give that level of flexibility. So it might be easy and flexible in some few years. It's possible. Yeah. So here are the key takeaways from my short or not so short talk. Just familiarize yourself with technology and technologies of Web 3.0. Just be out there. I can recommend some shows online. For example, Bloomberg Technology with Emily Chang. It's one of my favorite shows. Every day, I try to watch that every day. Some people watch the news on politics, but I prefer to watch Bloomberg Technology just to keep up with what is happening. And podcasts and conversations, attend events, know what's happening online. There's a lot of free events happening online. Understand the legalities also surrounding doing business using Web3 because it's an important aspect, and pick up skills which will make you marketable for the future of the web. I mean, I've mentioned a lot of technologies and a lot of areas which you can dive into. If you don't want to dive into the programming side, you can dive into another side of this. You can be a consultant when it comes to this because you'll be knowledgeable in this. And there'll be pushbacks with this new paradigm due to the scam potential, like a lot of scamming happening of such new technology. So it's important to take note of that. That's why there'll be skeptics when it comes to these technologies. And as the web evolves, there will be fresher opportunities for researchers. I mentioned that already, for developers, quality assurance, and analytics experts. And don't forget that there will be many people who are not ready to transition due to issues of privacy and connectivity and all that. I mentioned the digital divide. So you also have to build with those people in mind and not just jump because everybody's jumping. And because there's a possibility that once everybody's jumping, a lot of people will be left behind. And the way human nature is, like, people decide to come back to the old thing because usually we think that the old thing is always better than the new thing. Sometimes that's how humans think. Yeah. So this has been my short presentation. No, not so short presentation on the web and the future of the web. And I've introduced you to a few interesting technologies and frameworks that you can look into. One of my favorite ones is A-Frame. You can check it out and play around with it. Maybe use it for your final year project. I don't know, something of that sort here. So yeah, it's been interesting showing you a little bit about the future of the web, and I hope this was beneficial to you. So thank you very much. I'll stop sharing now.
Thank you, sir. If students are having any queries, they can unmute themselves and can ask the queries.
Yes,
We can
absolutely.
have 5 minutes for question and answer.
Any yes, absolutely. Anybody with a
Yeah,
question can
students,
ask.
you can unmute yourself if you are having any queries.
Oh.
I guess there is no query from student
Yeah,
side, sir.
I'm sure because it's quite a yeah. It's. I didn't go so technical. I didn't pick a
Sir,
framework.
I
Yeah, one
have one.
student.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, I have done Flask, sir. So is it good I stick to the Flask part or should I do the Django also, sir? Like,
Okay. Well, I would recommend you to Flask is good because everything Django does, Flask is able to do, and with Flask you're able to also have quite a good amount of control when it comes to routing. If you understand routing and all those things, yeah, it's I think Flask is highly recommendable. But for somebody who is not really a good programmer, I could recommend you to use Streamlit. Yeah, it's really simple and easy to use. Yeah. You can check it out. Yeah.
yes, sir, I have used both, sir. I have used Streamlit also
Okay.
for my projects, and
Okay. Which one do you
right now I'm
prefer?
learning Flask only, sir.
Okay. Okay. Which one do you prefer actually?
Sir, what I found was, sir, while I was using so Flask, I use mostly when I have to do backend coding, so like mostly
Okay.
on that
Yeah.
part. Because, sir, it gives me the requesting part, get, post, put request. All these requests are easily
Yes,
able to get.
exactly. Yeah. The
But in
routing and
Streamlit, I
all
don't
that.
get that opportunity, sir.
No.
Yes, sir.
No. Yeah. Well, it's quite new, so they are yet to make these additions. I don't know how long it will take because I think they realized that well, maybe their intention was to make it easy to program, so they don't have to give full control. But in the you can check out the Streamlit community. There's a lot of things happening at the moment
Yes,
with
sir.
ideas and people actually giving ideas to the developers. So it's possible that in a few years we might see some new things. So
Yes, sir. Because in the Streamlit, everything is a component based, sir. We can design everything.
exactly,
Yes,
yeah,
sir. If you have to use a volume play bar, play button, we can just add it. Like we have to play some song or
yeah,
like that.
exactly,
Yes, sir.
exactly.
Any other query?
Sir,
Yeah.
Yes. Well,
sir, nowadays we've seen all the major countries, the governments are kind of up against the whole decentralizing the banking system, or
okay.
they're not in favor of the decentralized part. So, what is your take on
Mhm.
that, and what will it be in the
Hmm.
future?
Okay. Well, um, I think it's there's more that there's a philosophical side to this concept when it comes to the decentralization because I think for technologies like this like when it comes to decentralized technologies for banking or decentralized finances, you realize that a lot of people see it as a way to go against the government because the common notion when it comes to decentralized finances that we want to as in the government has destroyed the system, so we want to go our way, and we want to use our own financial system. So we believe that maybe we don't need a dollar, we need but it's actually interesting that you need dollars to buy or like rupees to buy Bitcoin. Or it's actually interesting concept. Yeah. So I think the governments are pushing back. Yeah, because they, they it's a risk. Yeah, and most governments don't understand it fully, and even most of the developers don't understand it fully, and most of the users don't understand it fully. So I think um some government thinks it's a hoax. It's going to die down very soon. Everything will come back to normal. But there's a scary part that it actually might not be that case. There might be anarchy and all that when it comes to the financial world. the crypto space. So what I can say in general is my personal opinion is that, well, I think governments should actually maybe look into it and see how best they could, if not even go 100%, they could try to integrate it a little bit into something, one aspect, and see how it will work, like running a pilot project on some aspect, maybe for example, maybe electricity payment or something, just to see how it works, or mobile money, local mobile money, like money transactions in the country, something of that sort, to see how it works. So rather than pushing it away, governments could take it and develop something, maybe a platform where people can use this. And yeah, that's a basic, my personal observation. Yeah, I know some countries might fight against it a lot, and well, they must regulate it and all that. Yeah, just in the name of protecting the citizens, because they don't fully understand it. So
Yes, because some countries on one hand are making it a legal tender, but on the other hand,
yeah,
some are completely banning it.
I think I forgot to mention something, the volatility of that aspect. I think there's also another thing when it comes to the crypto space. How volatile the cryptocurrencies are, the sharp rise and fall in the value of the money. For example, Bitcoin or any of these other currencies, we see that it rises and it falls in seconds or days, as compared to the dollar and all that, which are quite stable. Dollar, the rupee. I mean, the changes are seen, but it takes a long time to full effect. But with these decentralized financial systems, we see what happens is that there's a lot of hype around it. For example, token, and there are a lot of tokens in the system. So many cryptocurrencies, so you can't control. Yeah, so and governments want control, so definitely they have to find a way of either stopping all these things from happening, or maybe in order for them not to, because well, one thing is that when you stop this, people will find a back door into the system. So it's better to, I believe it's just better to adopt it, but then carefully adopt it. Yeah. That's why we see in America, if you watched quite recently, they had this Senate hearing where they spoke with creators in the decentralized finance space, Web 3.0 space, and crypto space, just to understand it and know how they can act and what regulations they can create. So at least some countries are trying something. America is one country that will be scared. I'm sure they were skeptical about this, but then the government realized that, well, we don't understand it, so let's call the experts and tell us what they think, and we can put things together and see how we can regulate it. And when it comes to regulation, there'll be people against regulation also. Some developers will be against regulation. So at the end of the day, it's and nothing is really fixed yet. Nobody really understands what's happening here. So that's it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir. Now,
Thank you
before
very much.
concluding, I request Professor Shailesh Galande, sir, to deliver the vote of thanks. Over to you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Kapil sir.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So I would like to express my gratitude to our guest, Ebenezer Agbozo sir, who has shed light on the various topics from Web 2.0 to Web 3.0, in which various verticals were covered, where actually a major difference was been highlighted, that is centralized and decentralized, which is the major part of this upcoming technology, and also various topics such as the technology adoption curve, which was been mentioned in one of the slide. Actually, that curve really tells us to analyze ourselves where actually we fit in that curve, whether we are in innovators, early adapters, or majority, or say laggards. So we need to improvise to fit in that curve actually. And most beautiful example was given of the Web 2 of Facebook, where actually how the data is been tracked by the FB, and how the ads are again reverted back to us, and this goes on continue in a loop, which is never ending loop. And this actually centralization is overcome in Web 3.0 by trying to decentralize it actually. And moreover, the different frameworks like Gun.js, Solidity, these were also introduced, and how they can help us for the front end, and also by Aditya and Vedant. Your questions were also very actually genuine questions which highlighted the current technology of cryptocurrency. We have seen in case of Binance actually. There are various crypto technologies like Zeppe, WazirX, and Binance. But what happens in Zeppe and Binance actually, from wallet we have to transfer actually the funds. But Binance, what it does actually, it helps to transfer from wallet to wallet. So that is one of the best example of I think so it is of decentralization. So as sir said, many of them will be opposing actually for this decentralized type because the control will be not there on their financial. So overall, if we can say, the session was pretty much beneficial in terms of technological aspects as well as the new key features like Gun.js, Solidity, and all. So I would like to thank Ebenezer Agbozo sir to make his time from his busy schedule and to share his thoughts, and definitely it was good food for our thoughts actually. So I thank on behalf of our Pimpri Chinchwad Education Trust, Pimpri Chinchwad College of Engineering, and thank you everyone for attending the session. The
Thank you very
feedback
much,
form
Martin.
link is given in the chat. I request all the students to give the feedback for this session. Okay, sir. Over
Thank you
to
very
Kapil,
much.
sir. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you all. So here I declare that session we are going to end up here. Thank you all for participation. Thank you, sir. Nice to see you.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
All right. Bye.